You're listening to SM Media, the home of exclusive West of Scotland Football League content. Hello folks and welcome to our special 2023-2024 West of Scotland season preview prediction show. I'm Scotland Pike. It's an absolute pleasure to be your host as always. We're now at the stage, all the season previews are done, all the videos are out, and this is the last podcast I'm going to do in the West for a few weeks because I think I've learned every single thing about every single club over the past few weeks, but it's been an absolute pleasure to do it. We're going to then do the part of the season I don't like is where we need to pick our top three and bottom three for most of the leagues. And as you can see, we've got an all-star panel to talk us through it. You won't see Sky Sports, you won't see TNT or Viaplay of a panel that we have assembled tonight. That's one of the best panels we've ever had on the SM Media. It's taken us 3 years to build up a panel like this, and it's a pleasure to have them all on. So we're going to go around the panel and introduce everybody for our viewers. It's going to be an absolute pleasure to run through it. First of all, making his debut appearance, it's a pleasure to welcome onto the show long-time journalist, a man I've kind of followed a great deal over the years. It's a pleasure to welcome on Scott Campbell.
Hi there, Scott. Nice to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Absolute pleasure. You'll have noticed him over the years as manager of East Kilbride Thistle. Now he is the number 2 at Finnart and looking to go up the leagues in the West. It's a pleasure to welcome onto the show on his holiday. Not to make me feel bad enough, I actually asked him to do this while he was on holiday. It's a pleasure to welcome Garry O'Hanlon.
Thanks very much, Scott. Thanks for having us on. Looking forward to it.
Absolute pleasure. We had him on last season in the West of Scotland football show. He is now one of the best minds in the West of Scotland, in my opinion. It's a pleasure to welcome onto the show, Mark MacKay.
Hi, Scott. Thanks very much for having me.
Absolute pleasure. And if you're at any ground in the country over the next 12 months, or you maybe at a Bells Hill game, you'll probably run into this fellow. It's a pleasure to welcome on the show, Reece Mullen.
How you doing, Scott? Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. I'm looking forward to this, although I'm already scared of the amount of managers who'll phone me about my season predictions over the next few weeks. It's going to be very interesting. Let's get into it. Obviously, the plan of attack is we're going to do it. We're going to chat a wee bit about the kind of competitive nature of all 5 leagues. We're going to ask the team to give us a top 3 and bottom 3 for all 5 leagues. And then some kind of wee teams to watch that maybe haven't made the grade on either side that could certainly be teams to keep an eye on. But Scott, I'll start with you. Yeah. Again, it just shows you, just looking at the kind of teams I've written down here, the West is certainly taking effect. When you're in the kind of couple of years, it would take a couple of years for it to really get into a competitive style. But what a season we've got lined up here.
Yeah, it's great. As you say, it's been a strange couple of years just waiting for things to kind of even out in the leagues. It's been tough for a lot of teams with some divisions with 6 and 7 teams getting relegated, but now we've got a bit of stability, hopefully, going forward. 5 divisions of 16 teams, 80, I think, if my arithmetic's right. It's a great setup. A straight 3 up, 3 down sort of thing, no messing about with playoffs or anything like that. I just think it's the way to go forward. So, in every division, so the Premier gets a lot of focus, seems to be just so being so competitive, so tight, and I'm sure this will be proved by some of the predictions that we make tonight being way off the mark. So it's really hard to call every one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, last year I'd Corinne finishing the top 3 in my predictions last season. They certainly didn't finish there, but it shows you just how unpredictable these leagues are. Gary, I'll come to you obviously as a man who's kind of been in the junior scene for a long time and obviously seeing the development of the new setup. Well, now at a stage, as Scott says, 16 teams in 5 leagues, 5 leagues, 16 teams, 3 up, 3 down. It's taken a while, but we kind of feel as if it's more of a balanced league, which is going to be brilliant, I think, from a competitive point of view.
No, definitely. I think as Scott touched base with there, every league is going to be very competitive. There's teams in the 4th division now that are, I think last year or the year before, it was kind of looked as just the sort of development league. Now there's teams in there that have been well established for a long time. that are obviously looking to get back up. So it gives it that other sort of factor where it's all sort of it's added strength as much as it's going to be hard for the teams that have went down. But overall, I think it's going to be a very, very good league for a year for all the leagues.
Yeah, absolutely, Mark. It's obviously the West is presenting an opportunity for a lot of new teams to come in. Obviously, you'll know that from personal experience. Like seeing the likes of like Easterhouse, obviously like Thorn, St Peters, a lot of new teams coming in. Threave obviously crossing for the south. A lot of new teams in, and it's just giving a lot of kind of freshness into the setup.
I think it has. I think we spoke and obviously what happened last year at Easterhouse, and I'd said that one of the big things was try to get yourself motivated because you played in a lot of sports centres. But now when you look at that, you're going to go to Showpark, East Kilbride, you're going to go to Lugar, you're going to go to Saltcoats, even the John Cummings at Killook. I know it's a big Astro, but it's got a different feel to it than some of the sports centres. So I think that league becomes more interesting. There'll be a lot of teams that obviously, as we spoke, you touched on, 6 went down. They'll want to bounce right back, but I don't think that'll be the case for them all. Obviously, you're only looking at pre-season results currently, and you know what can happen in that, but I think it'll be interesting. I think it's a good season ahead, and I think there'll be loads and twists and turns. I think predictions every week will be some way off, I think, but time will tell. Time will tell.
Yeah, absolutely. And Reece, obviously, from a viewer's point of view, obviously seeing the amount of teams, it is exactly that. Every week there was some surprising results coming out of nowhere, but it just shows you just how good this league is. I would say, out of the whole kind of Scottish setup, the level of competitiveness in this system is the best, I think.
It's the envy of this level, I'd just say, definitely. Like you say, it's you can't call it at all. Like you just look at what happened to Beeve last year season. Nobody had them at all, and then they've just went and got straight up. Like obviously, Chris Strain's a great manager in himself anyway, but you never expected it. And a lot of other things, obviously, Kilwinning going down, and then a lot of teams in the middle as well. Like ones that you probably would expect, they should have been down in the bottom side when really have pushed on. It's just you can't keep up with it, but it's brilliant. And that's the best thing about it.
Yeah, it certainly is. And that leads us on to making our predictions now. I'm going to apologise in advance to the managers and the players who are going to shout at us all for our predictions over the course of the next hour or so. Please don't take it personally. It's just something. It's a bit of fun. We're going to have a wee look. It's what we say is not how it's going to turn out. I'm 99% sure of that. I don't think I've ever had a prediction right at this level. But we'll start with the 4th division. So 16 teams again. 6 teams coming down from the 3rd last year. We obviously have the introduction of Knightswood. Giffnock obviously changing from Harmony Row. I'm going to start with Mark. So the plan here is obviously with the 4th division, there's no teams going down as far as we're aware yet. That's the plan is obviously for those teams to stay in the West, unless something changes down the line, which I'm not sure of. But 16 teams. We're going to do a top 3 for this league and maybe a couple of teams to follow that maybe won't make it into the top 3 setup, but are certainly teams to keep an eye on. So I'm going to start here with Mark, a man who knows the league quite well, seen a lot of these teams over the past year or so. Mark, you're in the spot first. Give us your top 3 and maybe 2 to follow that maybe won't make it.
I think looking at pre-season results, I think Lugar could do quite well. They've had a few wee good wins in various bits and pieces. I think I was really impressed last year with Thorn, Barry McLaughlin at Thorn, that his team play a good way. I think it will help that just towards the tail end of the season that they sort of have got their own park and their own sort of came away for the Astro, which will be good. St Peters I was quite impressed with last year. They were a very young side. I don't know how well they'll do in terms of how many they've kept. But obviously a year at that, they'll sort of maybe kick on. So probably for me, that would be 3 that were quite good. I was involved on Saturday at the 4th and New Mains game. And Davy Menelaws has got New Mains playing well. I think they'll surprise a lot of people. So I just need to pick one more, then 2 to drop out it. So I think part of me still wants Easterhouse to do well. I'm an Easterhouse boy. I was there sort of well, a short time. Could have been longer if things were slightly different. And as I say, I've been over that, so we'll pass on that part. But I want them to do well. To be honest, I would like them to do well. I hope they have a good season. Whether they can or not, that time will tell, and how they go. But if sort of the three from that, I think Luger, New Mains, and I think I've got a wee sneaky feeling that Thorn might do quite well. But that's a few big sides. East Kilbride and stuff, no making the playoffs or no getting up, which are sort of well established and a really big side. So I think they, as you see, your predictions are probably wrong and somebody will run away with it that's not in that, fine. But as I say, I think Luger, New Mains and Thorn, I think will do quite well this year.
Brilliant. Gary, I have to obviously kind of ask you about East Kilbride Thistle. Like, obviously you were there kind of this time last season, and I don't think many people thought that relegation was in the cards. It's obviously been a very difficult time at the club. What do you think now? Obviously, Aaron's kind of stepped up into the management role. He did manage to kind of restore a kind of bit of kind of stability at the club. I know it was a difficult time, and I know it'll probably be something you'll maybe not want to talk about. But where do you see them this season, and do they feature in your top three?
A touchy subject, I'm not going to lie. What's happened's happened. For me, there's still a lot of good boys here. The under-20s we brought in to try and create a structure. Like I think the most of the teams have done that. We didn't have an under-21, so we brought them in. So there's a lot of good boys there that I do think will add value to the squad. I think they might just come short, to be honest. Just with the three teams that I've got in my mind now is Glenville, who we played a few weeks ago, which might surprise a few people, but I was pleasantly surprised with how they had set up, how they passed the ball about. They were tricky, they moved it. So I think that they're obviously going to. I think that they're going to finish at the top end of the table. As Mark touched base on there, with Luger as well, I've got them to finish second. Again, I'm only going by probably the season results at the moment, but even when we went down there last year, when I was at East Kilbride, they made it difficult for us. And they started to turn a corner come the end of the season. They were just unfortunate to go down. So I think that momentum, how they finished the season, is probably how their pre-season started. So I think that they're going to potentially finish second. And then I've got Thorn down as finishing third. Again, as Mark's touched base on, I think that they've got their own home now. They've started to sort of build as a club, and I think they've all gone to better things. So that's kind of my top three. But back to these, I think that they'll just maybe finish just maybe before they might. They do have the players there to go and do well. A lot of really good young boys that maybe needed. I think it will suit them with being really. I don't mean that in a bad way. I think this division will suit the boys, because I think a lot of the boys are maybe 20, 21. We'll give them the experience to push on. And like I said, I believed in them from when we brought them in, so that I do think that they'll go on to do good things. And like I said, similar with Mark, Kilbride's still my local club. Do you know what I mean? They're still, to a certain extent, wanting to do well. So that's kind of where we're at. We were talking about teams to look at. Obviously, WOSFL's there. With Josh, I think he's doing a bit of decent work with his recruitment. I think they'll not be too far away. And again, St Peters as well. When it comes to teams down the bottom end of the table, it's going to be probably, I still think Royal Albert and Saltcoats are probably still going to be the ones that are going to need a wee bit of infrastructure to go forward. But that's kind of how I see it.
Scott, what about yourself? What's your top three and a couple to watch out for?
Yeah, I think, like I said, the same as the other guys. There's some big clubs in there that maybe wouldn't think they would be themselves in a fifth division. But you say your name, your reputation doesn't count for much these days. But certainly the likes of Luger and East Kilbride, I think we'll be looking to get back up straight away, sort of thing. You know the boys at Luger, George Wallace and Johnny Bailey, and George was actually in doing a bit of work in my house towards the back end of last season, and he came in it seemed every other day when they're playing, like every 2 or 3 games a week, he says, just not quite good enough last night, sort of thing. He thought they would get out it, they just didn't quite make it in the end up, sort of thing. But I think they've kind of signed well, re-signed well, so I think if they can get off to a good start and carry on that momentum, they would certainly be in amongst the favourites. East Kilbride, I'd like to see obviously Adam's going to get in there and kind of all that didn't work out last season. I think hopefully he can get them back up. It's tough for them living in the shadow of the other East Kilbride in the town, sort of thing. It's always going to be a hard shift there, but hopefully he can get them back up. I'm not a big expert in this kind of area, but speaking to a few folk and reading up, Eglinton, I think, seem to be getting a few mentions for having sort of done well for what they're doing down there. So maybe they might be someone that can sort of push up towards and get in the mix. And I'd like to see Saltcoats maybe doing well. Brian Sladen's in there as he's got a hometown team. It'd be nice to. They've had a tough few years. It'd be nice to see them maybe push it up the table. And also the likes of Knightswood, the one new team coming into the West this year, just to see how they adapt to it. And also in Giffnock, who have taken over the Port Washington Row. I know a lot of the Giffnock boys through the walking football setup I'm involved in, and it seems to be a really kind of well-run club. So I'll be interested to see how they can adapt to this new setup.
Brilliant. Reece, what about yourself? Top 3 and a couple of teams to keep an eye on.
I'd imagine probably just similar to the rest of the guys, but like what Scott said about Eglinton, I've heard a few wee things going on saying they've been quite building up. So I thought stick my head out and just put them in the top 3 as well. And I've also went with Thorn Athletic as well, like just again similar reasons. They've got the establishment there, so they've got their own ground. I think it's a perfect place to build on, maybe compared to the other clubs that have joined recently in the past couple of years. So, and obviously they've done quite well last season. But the other ones I'd imagine Lugar as well, just same reasons. I'd imagine out of the ones that came down, they're probably the ones best to bounce back. I did think about East Kilbride Thistle as well. I think maybe if all goes well, they'll probably push up there, a bit of stability. But like I say, I think that's what they need, just maybe a wee bit of consistency. But it is what it is at the end of the day. Other ones I'm looking at, like I say, Rossville. They've finally got, that's their name now. They could probably push up from there. Glenvale, absolutely. They can go for there. But yeah, they've been recruiting well. And then again, St. Peter, they finished strongly last season, and hopefully could do the business again. But that's my 3: Thorn, Eglinton, and Lugar.
Brilliant. I am going to go out on a limb and say that I think Lugar will win the league. I think they're just looking at their kind of team, and obviously George is someone who he's recruited well for the amateurs over the past year or so. I think there's a lot of young talent there. I think there'll be less pressure than Lugar last year. I thought Lugar were up there with kind of Lugar and East Kilbride were the two kind of teams I thought would do really well last season, and it never really happened for Lugar. But I think Lugar will probably be the team to beat. I like Thorn, just like the setup there. I just think over the past year or so, Barry's done really well and building that setup. He's recruited well again. There's a lot of good players in there. And I think third, it's a toss-up. There's a lot of teams you can put in here. I've got 6 for 3 places, so I'm going to say my top 3, and then I'm going to my 3 to watch. I think Glenvale will be really good. I think obviously Lewis got in there, and obviously his dad helping him out. Jamie's gave him a couple of players as well. So the McKim family definitely in order there, and I think there'll certainly be a wee bit of helping hand if it ever comes to it. And I think obviously just the kind of progression over the past year, like the season before, I know Glenvale really struggled, and just getting a kind of some fresh faces in there, just a new dynamic. I think it's going really good. So East Kilbride Thistle as well. I love Aaron. I think Aaron's a really, really bright guy. I think he knows what he wants. I think he's kind of starting young. I think this is a perfect sort of league for that. So my top in Eglinton obviously are my team that I kind of really like. I like their recruitment as well, bringing in obviously Graham Mayer, who's a really, really experienced player. Greg Richmond for Kello, I think it's a terrific bit of business as well to get him in. I know they've been trying for a while to get him in. So, yeah, my top three, I'm going to go for Lugar first, Rossvale second, and Glenvale third. And a real positive say for Thorn, East Kilbride, Thistle, and Eglinton. And I think a lot of the other teams will obviously just be trying to have a stable season. So that is the fourth division. Let's move into the third. No better place to start than Garry O'Hanlon, obviously the involved at Fanar. And I think I know one of your top three. How are you kind of feeling about pre-season, and where do you kind of see yourself fitting in the campaign?
Obviously, we're going to back ourselves. You wouldn't have been in the game if you're not going to do that. I think over pre-season we've been good. We've had the last couple of weeks we've added some new coaches with Dev MacKay and Scotty's come in as well to help us. So we've managed to bring in a few players that was probably needed at the tail end of last season. We were kind of, I don't know, we kind of obviously playing for nothing. Players had left the club, and it was kind of, we didn't have a big squad. So we added a bigger backroom staff and players. I think we're looking in decent shape. Boys are starting to get used to each other, how they play. They're all young and hungry, so I've got a positive feeling that Ferrari will do well this year. Obviously, I'm going to back us to finish top because that's the way that I am. So
I
yeah,
don't think Brian would have you back if you didn't tip it up to.
I know, definitely. So when it comes to the sort of top three for this league, last year, felt Irvin Vicks and the Gow were probably the best of the rest, and I think that they'll be in the top three for me as well.
Brilliant. Bottom three.
It's a hard one. It is looking at it now. There's so big struggle, and it's like I said, I'm going to be probably hated for this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I think obviously with what's happened with Ian Kennedy taking over at St Rock's, I think West Park have got a big challenge. They'll not thank me for commenting on it, but I think that they'll be in the bottom three. I think looking at it as well, it's probably Girvan maybe. They maybe run about there, and possibly Port Glasgow. That's the way that I'm looking at the three, and that's what I'm thinking.
Okay, we'll move on to Reece. I know obviously you're a big Bells Hill fan. Where do you see your top three and bottom three? And are Bells Hill in either?
Well, I was thinking about Bells for the top three. For once, definitely not bottom three, thankfully. Compared to a couple of other seasons, but I think Bells built on really well. Seen them a few pre-season games, and they've near enough dominated the teams. A couple of teams in the East they played, and then played Mabel, just played them off the park. But I don't think I want to say top three yet. I think maybe they'll push up there. But I've went for top of the table, Three Rovers. Obviously they've come in last season from the south to the bottom of this one. I think they'll look to skyrocket. I think they've got the potential to do it. I think they've also kind of stuck their neck out a wee bit and said that, oh, we should be like up there anyway. So they've kind of I definitely need to play it now, or they'll get straight to tatters. Other one I put out after last season, Lanark United. I think they'll do quite well. Just again, strong team. I think don't see a lot of changes with them. And then my third pick will be Irvin Vicks. I think they're looking to crack on with it, and like I say, they've improved as well.
Brilliant. Bottom three.
This is the one where it'll kill me. I'd imagine, just for the look at like I say, I just heard a lot of talk about West Park recently. I think a lot of our squads went and they started pre-season late, so I'm going to go with West Park. Another team's Villa Even. I didn't see much change about them happening. I feel that they seem to be a team that's quite people enjoy to go and play. So I'd imagine I'm just going to stick with them down there. And then my last one is Glasgow United. From what I've seen, they've signed a lot of amateur boys, a lot of new team, and obviously they've also signed David Goodwillie, which obviously is a bit controversial. I'm not going to go into that, but depending if he's staying or going,
don't.
No, I'll shut up. Don't worry. Depending on that, I don't see them doing too well at all, so they'll be down there as well.
Mark, what about yourself? Top three, bottom three, third division.
I think I was impressed with Threave last year, as Reece just touched on. I think the big difference that Threave have for any other teams round about, like Gary, you'll know this as well, that if a boy gets released for St Roch's, Cumbernauld, then his name goes to Lanark, Shotts, Forth, all these, whereas I think they're down there and they can cherry pick. It's for down there, it's about who they change, and if they want to change a league, they fancy playing different teams, and you don't really know anybody. You don't really know the teams. You can go in I can go to any game probably in the West, apart from a Threave game, and you'll know somebody that plays with you, whether it's Glenvale or West Park or whoever it'll be. You'll know, oh, he used to play there, he used to play there. Whereas I think Threave are still and probably going to continue to be an unknown because of where the players pool comes from, and I think that could be a big advantage for them. As I say, I was quite impressed with them last year. So I think they'll do quite well. I think Leslie Hague will do quite well. They beat Forth 8-0 the other night, a game that I was at and took in. As I say, I'm in helping at Forth at the moment, so I was really impressed with them. They played the ball and they played to their strengths, and if they continue to do that, they'll be good. And Reece might not like this one, but I've got a wee soft spot for Bellshill, to be honest. Kevin Fraser, my ex-captain for Easterhouse, is there. Ross Girdwood's a boy I had. Donnie Wilson's there. I'm sure Billy Wilson's still there. I know Jai C, the goalkeeper. So I think Dino and that are very similar to what happened to East Kilbride. Everybody knows what had happened, and they went in at the tail end of last year and sort of steadied the ship. And by all accounts, on and off the park, they're in a really, really good place. So I would really like them to do well. Hopefully they can sort of a kick on. I'd like to see ex-players of mine and boys that I like and had a good relationship do well. So I hope sort of a Bellshill kick on and hopefully can sort of a push for the top three would be good. I think everybody's bottom three in that league, unfortunately, I think will entail West Park just because of what's happened and the sort of our players, which is a wee bit unfortunate. I think Dorai could struggle in that league. I'm sure they're still in it. Chris Wilson's. I know he's taking a lot of boys for Athley 21s, but I think to do that, I think you're probably better in the division below to give him a wee ground and a wee footing. I don't know how many experienced players Dorai have got, and they flirted with sort of a relegation last year and managed to get out of it. And the last one, I'm sure Greenock went down. I'm sure they lost a few players and done various bits and pieces, so I don't know if they're going to have a good season. It could be them or Glasgow United, unfortunately, which is Shug is somebody that I know, and as I say, you don't never want any local sides to sort of a struggle, but could be them. But probably Greenock if to stick my neck in the line.
Okay. Scott, top three, bottom three for the third division?
Yeah, kind of similar to some of the other guys. As Mark was saying there, Threave were the one that kind of caught my eye. Newly promoted, but a very ambitious club. They've made that clear over the past couple of seasons that they want to rise up through the pyramid as quickly as they can. That was what was behind their move from the south to the west. And I would imagine that they'll be up there sort of challenging again this season, particularly if they can get off to a decent start and sort of carry on that momentum that they had from last year. I like the look of Bellshill as well. To say Dino and Neil did well back end of last season, and it's been a kind of traumatic few seasons for the club, kind of on and off the park with different things going on. But there seems to be a bit of stability there now, and I'm sure a full pre-season behind them, and they could hopefully be in the mix. The other one I had maybe kind of different from Mark. I kind of picked out Greenock as maybe a kind of possibility to bounce back from relegation and come back up. A new manager in Gary Fleming, obviously coming from the higher levels with the lads. And again, like some of the teams below them are quite a big club to be down at that level. And interesting to have that we've got the derby back. Greenock and Port was always an entertaining couple of games. There'll be ones to watch out for when they come round. But if they can say get off to a decent start, they could maybe be in the mix as well. Bottom end, as I say, West Park, like everybody else, I think maybe struggle with the step up, particularly after what's happened, losing the manager and quite a few players. The other two, it could be 2 from maybe 5 or 6. I've gone for sort of Vale leaving and Kello. Maybe really, it could be really anyone. I think Kello, it's always tough for them to maybe just attract players with the geography down there sort of thing. But then maybe kind of done well despite that in the past few seasons. Vale leaving, I think everybody likes to go to Vale leaving. It's a great park, great surface. So I think maybe they don't have the home advantage that some of the other clubs do. And as I say, it'd be interesting to see what happens with Glasgow United. That was maybe one to watch just in terms of the good Willie signing. If that happens and they manage to keep a hold of him, he's maybe someone that could obviously score a lot of goals at that level, and maybe that could get them in the frame somewhere.
Yeah, I'm going to go for my bottom 3 first. I'm with you all in West Park. I thought even towards the end of last season, I thought West Park were the sort of team who could maybe just go up, keep going up. Well, I thought they just did the team were really kind of stable. Obviously, Ian had done a terrific job kind of bringing in players. They'd done really well last season, but a lot of the players have went with them to St Roch's, and I think Michael's got a lot to do in such a short space of time. He needs to get a new team in place. They started really late back in pre-season, he was saying, so I could see West Park being amongst the bottom 3. I think Vale are leaving as well. I just have I kind of worry there are a lot of young talent in there, but I think experience, do they have enough to contribute? Glasgow United, I don't really want to get into it, but I think it's all dependent on if they sign the person who they seem to be signing. If he's there, I think he could be one of the best strikers in the league in terms of a talent point of view. But again, obviously, you've got the elephant in the room, whether it's going to work there with that whole situation, because already we're seeing a lot of behind the scenes problems if that turns out the way it seems to be going. So I've got West Park and Vale leaving, definitely my bottom 3. I worry for Kello. I really like Greg and all the guys there, but I just think that the kind of losing Greg Richmond, obviously the boy Armour's a really good striker, but they always struggle to attract players, obviously being where they are. I worry for Girvan as well. I think it's a big kind of transition they're going through at the moment. So if you were to say me neck in the line bottom 3, West Park, Vale of leaving, and I'll probably just go with Kello. I know it'll make me unpopular down that neck of the woods, but I just think they might struggle this season. Top 3, I'm with Gary and Irvin Vicks. I think they were really, really good last season. Just obviously they're a couple of teams better than them, but they've got a lot of attacking talent. Kevin Adam can score at any level. He's still, I think, one of the most reliable strikers in the whole setup. Savarese as well, I think, is a really good player. Dougie McDuff has done terrific in there over the past few years with a limited budget. I think this could be their season. I really do. I think Threave could be a team, obviously, that are just going to keep going. I think they've got such a good setup. I was talking to a couple of Glenafton people at Glenafton the other night, and they were saying how impressed they were with their setup and their style of play as well. And I think there's a lot of confidence there that they can be up there. And I really like Dorai. I think Dorai's signings have been really good. Like obviously Chris Love for Bonnet and Jamie Gray that was at Muirkirk, the boy for St Cuthbert's, Jordan Lynch. I think they've got a lot of good talent in that team this season, and I think Dorai could be one that they struggled last year. I fancied them to do really well. They just never really get going, and I think they could be a team that could do really well. So my top 3 would be Irvin Vicks, Threave, Dorai, and bottom 3 would be Kello, Vale leaving, and West Park. And we'll move into the second division. We'll start with that one with Scott. Interesting league, obviously. You've got some good teams coming up, like Vale Clyde, Drawson, Lark Hall, and some interesting teams coming down. It's the first season, obviously, Caledonian Locomotives, formerly Rossvale. You've got Bonnet coming down as well. It's an interesting league. Cumbernauld as well.
Yeah, as I say, again, I've gone for a team that's just new to the league in Vale Clyde. I think they've got momentum sort of thing. Winning the league so well last season, and I think they could be certainly in the mix to be up towards the top end. Digmark just missed out last year, sort of thing. They were unlucky. It was quite a tight battle, I think, between them and Baybo for that third promotion place. But Ryan Caddis has done a good job down there. As I say, all these teams down the kind of south east Ayrshire area, it's difficult for them to attract players, but I suppose someone of Ryan's name certainly helps to get them in, and they could be in the mix. Another one I've gone for is Cumbernauld. They say another big club sort of dropped down the levels a wee bit, but they'll be looking to get back up now. The change of manager towards the end of last season when he moved on, but I think it's Jamie Nesbitt. I think is in there now. So I think he's experienced at that sort of level. So I think he could have them in the mix. The bottom end, I think Glasgow Uni might struggle. It's always tough for the uni sides, particularly early on. Sort of thing when they're trying to put a team together. They can be left if they don't go off to a decent start. When the players are still coming in, and they might be left off the pace a wee bit. I know they've done well in the likes of the cups over the past few years, but I don't know if likes similar to Stirling Uni, if they've got other commitments, other university competitions that maybe stretches the pool, so it might be tough for them. And the other ones towards the bottom, I thought Wishaw maybe sort of struggle sort of thing, and St Anthony's maybe. I know the McKenna family well that has been involved in the answer, so I hope I'm wrong in that one sort of thing, but because it's always a great place to go, always get a great welcome there, but maybe this way a season where they might be kind of down towards the wrong end of the league.
Can I just say to Scott that I actually agree with all 6 of his predictions there?
Yeah.
Like that is literally my top 3 and bottom 3. Like Cumbernauld, I think Jamie and Dolsey are going to. I think going down is actually going to be a blessing for them. What I really do, I think they've been able to just regroup the squad. I think they kind of have a bit of a clean slate. I think they're going to be really good this season. Craig Mark, Ryan is, I think, unbelievable recruitment. Some of the players he's brought in over the summer, I think they could be really good. And I think John Hughes is going to do really well again at Vale Clyde. I think they could be a team to certainly do my top 3. I'll also give a positive mention. I think Kilsyth will be really good under Callow. I think they'll really improve. Ardrossan, a lot of attacking talent. I think they'll just maybe finish a wee bit short of promotion, but I think they're 2 teams to certainly take seriously. My top 3, Craig Mark, Cumbernauld, Vale Clyde. I worry for St Anthony's, and I kind of think that every year, but always Danny seems to pull it out the fire, and I think he'll need to again. I think he's lost a couple of good players, like obviously the boy Omar, I think's left as well. I worry for Wishaw. I think Wishaw are a team that for the past couple of years they've kind of struggled. They managed to stay up last season, but they lost obviously Harry Kent and Glasgow Uni. I love Martin. Mark's a terrific guy. I just think it's always difficult for the uni teams. I think like obviously Edinburgh Uni in the Lowland League, Stirling Uni, I always worry for them as well, but they were miraculous last season. Glasgow Uni did really well last year, to be fair, but I just think it might be very difficult for them this year, especially with the league being a lot more competitive. So top 3, Craig Mark, Cumbernauld, Vale Clyde. Bottom 3, St Anthony's, Wishaw, Glasgow Uni. We'll go to Reece now for his top 3 and bottom 3.
I've got like 5 out of 6 of them.
Aye.
No too far off. To be fair, this one is quite a hard one to pick. But same again, I think Cumbernauld, I think they'll bounce back straight away. Just the size of the club, and pretty much that. Same with Vale Clyde, like the stuff they done last season was incredible. Like, that team's a couple of good players in that team, former Belsall ones as well. And I think they're capable of doing it, like definitely. Third one is quite a hard pick, but I'm just kind of basing it off kind of last season, a couple of seasons before. Like Craig Mark, I think they'll go up as well. Just like look at them. Bottom 3, like I say, you say with St Anthony's, I think they've done well for the past few seasons. Like I think they've basically punched above their weight pretty much. Where they should be probably, but no, they've done really well. But I just think might just be a bit too much for them this season as a strong league, to be fair. Glasgow Uni as well, like you say, the uni teams just chop and change all the time. It's like hard to keep up with them, so I don't think they'll do well. Last team, I was thinking about Wishaw, but I kind of this one's just a bit of a stab in the dark. Muirkirk.
Okay.
I'm just kind of looking at just compare it to the rest of the teams, like how I think they'll shape up. And I just think Muirkirk maybe might not just match up, I'm afraid. What, just a winner?
Mark, what's your top 3 and bottom 3 for the second?
Very similar to you all in terms of it's a very tight league. I know obviously the Vale were on a great run last year, and it's a club that it's close to me as well. So I don't know how big the loss of Sinky to Peters Hall and boy that for Bellshill Dillon who went to Atherley. I don't know how much. They've recruited very well. Nicky Fraser's away there. It's a boy that I really like, and he will always score goals. But I don't know. So for me, the top three I think will be potentially Craig, Mark, Cumbernauld, and as I'm through helping Thomas at fourth at the moment, I'll need to go fourth in there, Gary. I'll need to do you, and you need to back yourself to the hilt. Um, sort of a pre-season's been a wee bit indifferent through at fourth at the moment, but it's been enjoyable. Thomas asked me to go in, and I've went in and I've sort of got a bit of the buzz back, which I lost, which is great for me. You can go out and just think about football again rather than all the other stuff. So that's really good. Very similar to sort of the teams going down the uni. You never know what you're going to get. As Scott touched on very early in it, is you don't know when boys return and they go through wee phases where they're good for 3, 4, 5 weeks, and then maybe study leave comes in, and then they can sort of tail off again. St Anthony's, I think Jabs is away. I heard Jed Dobbs is away. I heard the boy he went to Cumbernauld as well, and whether Danny can work his Danny can work his magic. I think the big centre half's also away, I believe. But Craig, I think his first name was. But I think Danny, I know Danny well as well, so I hope it's not true, but I think St Anthony's could struggle. And the other one for me, similar to Reece, is Muirkirk. You see a few of the players have sort of followed Kevin Muirhead to Neilston, and another couple have went, and I know that it was the boy facing, I think it was the boy for the bench 20s who went in there. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how many boys he's taken with him, but as I said, like similar to some of the other teams, I think taking 4, 5, 6 under 20s doesn't always work, and especially in a competitive league like that with some big hitters and some big teams like a 20-year-olds rocking up to Glasgow Perthshire. I don't know how they'll fare too well, So, but you never know. But so for me, it's the uni. I think the Ants and Muirkirk will sort of be down there as well.
Gary, what would you think about the second division?
It's more competitive. I'm looking at the league table now. There's a lot of good teams in there, a lot of strong teams. I think the Ants will still stay in the league. I don't think it matters who Danny loses. I think the way that his character is, he'll get his players to run through a brick wall for him. So I think they've added a few players as well. We had the boy Barnes at Fanart, he's went in there. Colossal. He'll run into a brick wall for you. So I think that they'll be all right. Regarding the bottom three, I'll start for the bottom three upwards. So I think that obviously I agree with you with the Glasgow Uni, just with the factor that what can change week to week in terms of whether they leave or whatever may happen. So I think that they're going to be down there. Maybe Muirkirk as well. I think they'll probably same as you guys as you were saying there. It's going to take a wee bit of time for them. I think if they were maybe in the third division, it would give them a wee bit of time to try and gel. We just think there's going to be too many teams too strong for them in that division. And I'm going to go with Glasgow Perthshire as the last team to go down. So that's the three I think will get relegated. Regarding getting promoted, a lot of big teams in there. Dawson. We played against Caledonian Locomotive a few weeks ago, and I was really impressed with them. They were very direct with how they played. They moved the ball quickly. I think they'll just finish outside the top three. I think. So, but again, there's a number of teams there. Kilsyth will be strong. Larkhall strong. I think when it comes to being leaders, I think Vera Clyde will go and win the league. That's what my instinct is. The likes of Big McD, I know Sinky's away, but Big McD's a natural winner in there. He'll have them tuned in, and I think I strongly believe that they'll go and win the league. Ryan Caddis at Craig Mark last year, they finished fourth in the league, just off it. I think that they'll be in the top three as well. And I'm going to probably raise a few eyebrows here, but I think Loker are probably going to be in the top three. So I would go for Vela Clyde as to win it. Yoker to finish second and Craig Martin to finish third, and then just Caledonian just behind them.
Very interesting. We'll move into the first division. Obviously, been a lot of big moves over the summer. I always say it's the toughest league in the world to predict. It was last season. I think it will be again this season. Johnson Borough obviously brought in some big talent. Drumchapel been busy. Colwynning obviously coming down. Got some good sides coming up, like Renfrew, Maple, Ashfield. There's a lot of good sides in there. Reece, I'll start with you. You're top and bottom three for the first division. If you can get this, you're Harry Houdini.
Yeah, that's not happening. Well, I think obviously the place to start, obviously Joyceton Borough's like, oh, that's like crazy. I was going to say something else there, but I better know in case.
What do you think of it though?
fantastic.
What do you think of it though? Because I know there's a lot of people saying, "Oh, it's great for the game to have these players," but it's also a lot of money being spent. And I know we've had this conversation over the years with certain other clubs, but it's a lot. There's a lot of big name players going there, and can it work? Can it? Does it work? Does it? It's very rarely worked in the West. Can it now?
It's a strange one, isn't it? It's like you just assume that players are going to turn up. Like obviously Kyle Lafferty and Graham Dorrance has turned up, and then the rest of them, like you just expect, oh, maybe it'll work, and then obviously got the money backing. But you've seen the only other club who can really compare it to in our West Darvel, but it's worked for them to a degree, but they haven't gained that promotion. They've got obviously they've won the league before, and then they had that night against Aberdeen amongst some other things. But last season, I don't think they'll win this league, Johnson Borough. It is a tough season, but I think they'll come third.
Okay.
Around about that. But I'm backing my number one team is probably going to be Drumchapel. I think they have been desperate. I think their time's coming. They've been just so good in the conference and then the division previous. Last year. My other team, just because it's hard to say like this, like I've said, I'm struggling with this league, but I think Petersall might do well. I think they can bounce back up, definitely. Seem to look strong enough anyway. Just hopefully bounce up for their sake. Bottom three, went with Whitlets. I think they've took a lot of their players went to Every Meadow, as far as I believe. So once again, like why are they clubs into just made like a feeder club in a way. So they're in the bottom three along with Neilston. Like I say, I think they're maybe punching in just a wee bit. I'm sure they're capable of being in that division, but maybe not this year, just looking at how strong it is. But my final pick, I don't know if this might be a wee bit of a different one for everyone else, but I've not seen anyone else thinking. I think maybe Mabel might go down.
Okay.
Because I did watch them a game recently. I know it's based off one game, but it just didn't seem like a team matching up. They didn't seem to be a bit of chemistry. Obviously, that might change during the season. They might get their act together, but just don't think it might be possible. Plus, they're like right down the bottom end of the country, like where the league is, compared to the rest, like up near top Ayrshire and Glasgow. So it might be a catchment thing, who knows? But I'll just put Mabel anyway.
Okay, Gary, what you think about the top three and bottom three?
Again, I'm going to go for the bottom up. So I've got two the same as Reece there. So I've got Whitlets as well, and Mabel. Just for the fact is, I think the teams above them, nothing personal against them, I just think the teams above them are going to be too strong, and I think that they'll be down that end of the table. And I'm probably going to raise a few eyebrows here again, but I think Rutherglen Glencairn might struggle.
Okay.
So I'm just putting that's the other three, the bottom three for me. Regarding the top, I would probably say Drumchapel are going to be up there competing. There could be again 6 teams I think that's strong for winning. I think even St Roch's are going. Obviously, they've added what they've done. They could be potentially get up there, but I think looking at it, I think for winning will win the league. That's what my gut instinct's saying. With the Drum just sort of finishing second. Regarding Johnson Borough, I think they might just finish just behind them. But I'm going to back St Roch's for third.
Interesting. Mark, top three, bottom three, first division. Who we got?
I'll start top. I think the drum as well. I think that they've chipped away at it and chipped away at it. They're probably unlucky last year. So I think the drum. I think Jamie, he works hard. Jamie McKemmick, Johnson Burrow. I think they'll go up. Whether they win it, I think, to be honest, I think if they're nowhere near it by October and November, and they're languishing, Jamie's in real fear for his job, to be honest, for the amount of outlay they've got, and you never want to see that for anybody. So he needs to hit the ground running. It's great we've spoken about having players and getting into the West of Scotland top league, but when was the last time Kyle Lafferty played at Mabel? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if it works. I really don't know. You can have all the players in the world, but I've said to loads of players, and attitude, application, hunger and desire, they have to want to do it. Are they there just collecting a pay packet? I'm not sure. I hope for Jamie's sake they're not, and they're going to buy into it. I know they've got Dale Esplin and Dale Simeon, two boys that probably shouldn't be in that division, maybe not even in the divisions at all, maybe higher. Two fantastic players who'll go and give it all every day, but everybody has to pull in that one direction. If they don't, then it could be a long season. But I think they'll do it. Hopefully for Jamie's sake, I hopefully do it. I think winning will probably be up there as well. So that would be my three. It'd be the Drum, Johnson, Burrow and winning. The three to go down. I think Renfrew will go back down. They lose the boy Divers. I think they'll struggle to place his goals. I think he was a big part of what they done last year. They were obviously a promoted team, and then when you lose one of your mainstays, I think that's tough. I think like Whitlets, as you said, it sort of a movement, and they maybe lost a few players, so they'll sort of a struggle. And I think it's either going to be between Canby. I don't know if Paul still has a desire to keep Canby going, and I know James McKnight and the boy for St Rochs who went in there, and how quick they can turn that around, I'm not sure. Or the Glens, I think, could struggle as well. Obviously, Roy Harvey went away, and Joe Price is taking it. I seen today, I think it was, Jack McElveen's away, which is another one. They've still got Ryan McManus who scores goals, but I think when you lose top end players that scoring 15, 20 goals a season, it's hard to replace. So if we're so late, you're 3 days for the start of the season, your top goal scorer goes through. If Joe's not got something lined up or somebody coming in, it could be a tough season for the Glens, unfortunately.
Scott, what about yourself? Top three and bottom three in the first division?
Yeah, quite sort of similar to the guys again, sort of the bottom end. As I say, I fear for a couple of the Ayrshire teams, which goes against the grain a wee bit as an Ayr boy, but I think Whitlets might find it tough. So Poppy's in there, and they did well to keep them up last season. It was a bit of a battle towards the end, but they have lost a few of the boys to medal, and it might be a tough season. I know the club's trying to kind of rebuild and move to the new stadium and stuff like that. So there's a lot going on off the park. There's a big kind of community set up at Whitlets, which has been really well run. So the club's in a good place, but it might be a tough season for them on the park in that division. It's going to be a really competitive division this year. Similarly with Maybole, I think they've just come up. Carlo's one of the most enthusiastic guys you'll meet in the juniors sort of thing. I have a lot of time for him, but it might be a tough ask for them to do enough. The third team, I'm slightly concerned with St Rochs if they don't get off to a good start with a new team. Maybe they might be kind of down there. But the third team I went for was Nielsen. As I say, I think they can be down towards the bottom end as well. Top three, similar to the other guys, Drumchapel, Kilwinning and the Borough was the ones I went for. No particularly in that order, but I just think they'll be that wee bit stronger. A wee fancy for Kilwinning to maybe do well under Spenny and Wally, and get us order. I think you can rate out. But I think Drumchapel, ambitious club. I know they've lost big Martin Graham. He's away to Broomhill with Swifty. Yeah. He scored a lot of goals from last season, but I'd fancy them to be in the mix. Going in, I think a few folk have said they don't fancy them to maybe be there, but I think Chris will do well. I think they picked up the boys at Graham Boyd just today, so he'll certainly get goals for them. And the Borough, the players have got there, I don't think you can ignore them. It's just a case of how these guys adapt to it and how the squad adapt to every game being a cup final for the other team sort of thing. If they can handle that, you certainly think that they'll be in the mix. And I'm certainly looking forward to seeing how what sort of welcome Lafferty gets when he goes to St Roch. So that's should be an interesting fix.
I think we might do a live stream for that. I kind of think that as well. Yeah, I'm very similar in terms of the Johnson Borough, but I think Jamie has done a terrific job over the past couple of years, and I think he's done a terrific job with a kind of squad that nobody really thought. Like last season, I think they finished fifth, and I don't think a lot of people thought they would. So again, bringing in the players, and it's not just obviously the two big names, Graham Dorrans and Kyle Lafferty, but as Mark says, he's brought in Dale Esplin, who, if anybody listening to the podcast knows how big a fan I am of him. The McCann brothers, obviously Dale Simeon, there's a lot of talent in that team, and it's how they all gel. And are they all going to be starting? That's the thing. If they all link well, they brought in a goalkeeper for St Mirren on loan as well. So there's a lot of real talented players in there. So if they gel, I certainly think they'll be in the top three. I love Drumchapel's recruitment in terms of from forwards. Obviously, Scott made the point about Martin Gray and going to Broomhill, but they've signed James Marks for Kilburney and Jordan Love for Gartcairn. They're two really, really good pieces of business. Obviously, from a goal scoring perspective, I think Drumchapel will do well. I think Drumchapel and Johnson, if they click, are two teams that I fancy being in the top three. My third team's very interesting. I've got four or five teams here. I think Ashfield could fly under the radar this year. I think they're a really good setup. Bobby Barr and Johnny Black fired them up last season. They're two strikers I still think are too good to be playing where they are. So really, really interesting what could happen at Ashfield. Petershill, obviously Stephen taking over there. They've been a club kind of struggling for the past kind of year or so. So I think he'll get instead of the ship. Wouldn't put anyone off if they thought Thornleywood were good against Darvel. I've spoken to a lot of people at that game. They were really, really good against Darvel. I think, and David's obviously had a tough couple of years. I think he's got the bit between his teeth. I think he's went in there. He's recruited really well. I think Thornleywood could be interesting. Kilwinning, obviously, they really want to bounce back up. There'll be a lot of pressure for them to do so. They've kept the likes of Gav Miller and Dylan Mackin, so if they can all link up, I think they could be interesting as well. Kilburney, obviously, Spenny and Walligan in there. I think they'll be very interesting. But my top three, I'm going with Drumchapel, Johnston, and I'm going to put Thornleywood as my third team. Very, very close between that. Again, you could have 9 or 10 teams, same as last season. If any of these 16 teams went up, it wouldn't surprise you. If any of the 16 teams went down, it wouldn't surprise you. It's that competitive a league. Towards the bottom, I'm an Ayr boy. My closest team is Whitlets, but I worry for them this season. Love Popey, love Ian. I think they're really good. Love the setup. I've been down to the new stadium. Really like the vision they've got. But I just think this season could be very, very tough, especially with the teams round about them. I worry for Whitlets. I worry for Shotts as well. I think Shotts are a team that could maybe struggle this season. And my third team, I'm worried between them. Kind of torn between Cambuslang and Neilston for the bottom three. I think Neilston, obviously Kevin will be wanting to get a few players in, get a bit of kind of stability in there. Obviously, it's going to be a busy summer, but right now I'm going to go for Whitlets, Shotts, and I think Cambuslang could be my bottom three. And again, I just think this league is so hard to predict. If any of us get the 3 right or 3 wrong, then I don't think anybody will be surprised. It's such a competitive league, and it shows you there's a lot of talent in it. And again, when you're going to see like Johnson Borough are going to be really, really interesting. Drumchapel have recruited well, and you're going to have a lot of teams. Obviously, Drumchapel last season, Drumchapel played something like 55 games. So there's a lot of games and just missed out on promotion. So again, it could just be a case of if they get a bit of a run going. If you win your first 4 games in here, you could obviously be top. You could be top comfortably. But if you lose your next 4 after that, you could be sitting 12th. It just shows you how open this league is. I remember obviously Benburb were like second bottom in October and ended up going up. So it shows you just it's such a demanding league, and I think it's going to be very, very exciting again. And we'll move into the Premier Division. Beath, obviously last year, shocking. I don't think anybody fancied Beath to win it. Could they do the same again? Garry O'Hanlon, the big league, the Premier Division, your top 3 and bottom 3, just as complicated as the first division.
Well, I've backed Beath, to be honest, not just because they won it last year. I've seen how things had turned out with winning and Chris and stuff like that. And see deep down, I was happy that they managed to go on and do it. I didn't, even with 10 games to go, I didn't think that they were not necessarily going to go and do it. I still thought Darvel, with the games in hand, they could have still put up. You know what I mean? With the way Mick set the team up, his history is always, he's been used to that for the years that he's been managing. So I always thought that they were going to get it, but I was delighted that they managed to win it. So I'm going to back them again this year. Just on the basis that I think that they're going to kick on again. Everybody was maybe surprised at how they came through, but like I said, I'm going to go with Beith. Second, I'm going to go with Auchinleck. I think you never write them off, and for me, they're probably still the biggest West of Scotland team in my opinion. They're massive. Do you know what I mean? So you can never ever write Auchinleck off. I know that they've lost a couple of players, so but I still think that they'll be up there round about it. Regarding the third position, there could be a number of teams there. Wee Fez has obviously took over, and I know a lot of the boys that have came from East Kilbride. I think that it's good for both parties. It needed something big for Fez to leave East Kilbride, and I think it'll suit him. With the players that are there, everybody's got his respect. Even when I played up there, he was a kit man for a number of years up there, and everybody loves wee Martin, do you know what I mean? And everybody wants him to do well, so I'm going to back him to it might be a big ask, but I'm going to back him to finish in the top three with the squad that they've got. Regarding going down, not the nicest bit, but I'm going to, like I said, it could be a number of teams, but I think Arthurlie and Kirky are going to be down at the bottom for me. I think they'll be a wee bit stronger. They finished just a few places above the relegation. I think they'll kick on next year. Glenafton are a massive team. I think they might get put in. I might be miles out. So I think for the bottom, I'll say Turkey, Glenafton, and Arthurlie. That's my bottom three.
Interesting. Mark, what's your top three and bottom three in the Premier Division?
Two of Gary's three I agree with, to be honest, guys. I agree with Arthurlie and Rob Roy will struggle. I actually think St Cadoc's will struggle. I know you've got them at the other end. I think they'll struggle. I think some of the boys that he's brought in for East Kilbride, I think it's a different level. I think the Premier is stronger. I think the Premier is stronger in the Lowland League. That's my opinion. I think there's so many teams in the Lowland League. I think Paul, Darvel, Auchinleck would be well comfortable in that league and pushing to win it. I think anybody that gets up from any league each year will be favourites to go on and win that. You take the sort of our B teams in that out it, I think will be favourites for the league. Obviously B didn't go up this year, and I think East Kilbride will probably be favourites for that league, but I do think St Cadoc's might just struggle. I don't know how well the wee chairman will stick out if the first couple of results go wrong for Martin. He's also young, inexperienced at this level, but experienced in the level above. I think that'll be interesting. I think that's an interesting one. The St Cadoc's one. I think they three could struggle. I really hope Cumnock do well. Craig Palmer's went in there with John Doyle, and two boys that I know quite well, and I hope they do well. They're obviously, I speak to Craig near enough daily, and they're trying to recruit well, and hopefully they do. They're a massive club. They've got the lure of the Big Scottish Cup this year, and I think the draw has been quite favourable to them as well. I believe they'll get Girvan at home in the second preliminary round, which is great for the club. I think they'll beat Girvan, unfortunately, so they'll move on. So I think Auchinleck, you can never write them off. I think they'll be big, and they have to be big and strong. So I think it'll be hopefully Cumnock and Auchinleck in the top two, and I think it'll either be Pollock or Clydebank. I think Clydebank, Moff's had them playing well recently, and they've sort of been nearly men in that, and I think this is the year if they need a good start, and a very good start, they need to kick on. I'm quite close with sort of a Maxey, I play all over 40s with him, and at Pollock, and you always like people that you know he do well. But there's been a big sort of a turnaround there, and players, a lot of players have went. It'll be interesting to see how Pollock kick on, maybe with fresh ideas and some new faces. It might be what they need. I think they're 20 years, I think, the last time Pollock won the top league, so Maxey's also wanting to change that. I think it'll be always tight, but as I say, I'm probably sitting on the fence a wee bit with the top division. There's so many sort of a good sides, but I think it'll be sort of a quite close. But Auchinleck, you can't write off. As I say, I hope Cumnock do well for the boys, and Pollock and Clydebank can fight out for third.
Brilliant. There's things you can never discount. Death taxes and people saying in this podcast that they can never write Auchinleck off, and how can you disagree with that over the years? But Scott, there's been a lot of rebuilding at a lot of the top clubs. Obviously, Darvel, a big shake-up with Tony going in there. Pollock have changed the squad round. Auchinleck, a lot of players have left. A lot of young players have come in. How do you see the top three and bottom three going in the first Premier Division?
Yeah, as I say, I agree with you there, Scott. I'll start at the bottom and get that out of the way first, the awkward bit.
The hard bit.
Yeah. The bet I've gone for the Bens and Gart Cairn to maybe struggle towards the bottom end. New teams coming up to this division. Is it maybe a step too far from? I think they might be towards the bottom. The other one I've gone for is Rob Roy. I might hope I'm wrong with that because I love Goldie to bits. He's a great guy. I've worked with him a lot over the years, both as a coach and as a journalist sort of thing. But I think it's a big job he's got there to try and hopefully get them in the mix. There's quite a few teams there, and I think will be kind of safe sort of mid-table teams again, like say Cumnock's, Glens, Athley, Largs, and Troon maybe. Towards the top end, I was looking at 6 teams, and it's a split between 3 teams that have sort of got a bit of stability, that have kept much the same squad in Beath and Clydebank and Hurlford, and then you've got the 3 teams that have made quite a lot of changes in Pollock, Darvel and Talbot. So I think it's just whether you go with you fancy teams that have made the changes, and if these players can click into place quickly, or whether you go with the guys that have stuck with what they had. So I went with a kind of a mixture from my top 3. I fancy Pollock. If Maxey's boys can get off to a good start, I think they could go on and win it. He's signed well some guys for the below the league from Cali Braves and Stirling Union in particular sort of thing. They've been impressive in pre-season sort of thing, and so I think they could be in the mix to certainly to end that long wait for the title again. Clydebank, I think, will be far away. Moff and Garry had a couple of great seasons. I think I saw him in an interview the other day saying they've finished 4th the past couple of years, but they don't want to settle for that. They don't want to be happy with that. They want to push on, and they're always a good cup team as well, sort of thing. A lot of these teams, it just depends how they factor the cup ties into it as well. You would fancy a few of them to have decent runs in the senior Scottish. Some of them are still involved in the junior Scottish. The South Challenge Cup is a big competition as well. So it's going to be about managing the squads for a lot of these guys. And the third one I went for is Darvel. Obviously Tony back in the league. Everybody has their opinions about Tony sort of thing, but I think the league's always a more interesting place when he's there. And whatever you think of him, you can never write off. Discount his record, and he's certainly not afraid to go in and take on big jobs like Pollock and Cumnock, where you're expected to go in there and win things quickly. And that'll be the same case with Darvel. He's made some good signings. He's got a couple of boys in for Auchinleck that have played it, that won this league before, sort of thing, that know what it takes. I know he's lost a lot of boys to East Kilbride with Mick, but if they can get off to a good start, I would fancy them to be in the mix as well.
Excellent. Reece, what's your top 3 and bottom 3 for the Premier Division?
I'll start with the bottom 3 just to, like you say, get out of the road with. This one's quite a hard one as well. I actually think it's a bit harder, like, because you think you're picking, like, for the rest of the teams, for like, whereas I've got this wee block for the top ones. But I went with Rob Roy. I think it might not been as good as it was the past couple of seasons. and a lot of it's to do with as well the facility they're hoping to move into.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of their signings are kind of banking on that. And if they don't get that, then I think it might be a big major put off. So I'm not sure what's going on with it still. I think as far as I know, they're playing
Nobody does, mate.
Cumberland still. No,
I don't think they do, to be fair.
no, I don't think the one's running it do as well.
Mm.
But that's a factor for me. The other one I picked, Benburb. Just that one's kind of more for looking at who else is in the league. I think maybe a lot of just stronger teams, a lot of the ones versed in it. I think the way what you said is Benburb like doing the bottom a second, and the voice suddenly went up to the top. I don't think they can maybe get away with that. Maybe could survive it, but I think Benburb's gone down. And my third pick is this is a really hard one because it was between three: Gartcairn, Meda, and Glenafton. Like I think Meda's kind of the team they have been. Had a couple of bad results at the end of the last season. I'm not sure if they'll do the same. Glenafton as well. Like just looking at compared to the other clubs, I might not be as strong as I feel like the other ones are kind of recruited. But I've just went with Gartcairn maybe just because they have went up. They do like a good team, good team as well. Because anytime I've seen them, or even like looked at them, they've always seemed to go at it, and it doesn't matter who they're playing. It looks like a pretty hard place to go in Airdrie as well. So, but I just don't think maybe this season might just be could be any of them to be fair, but I think it might just be slim margins for that one. The top is I actually spent a full day trying to think about this. It's a hard one. Like you've got your teams like obviously St Carrots came up, but I don't think they'll be near the top. I think they'll push up there anyway if they're good enough, but I can imagine them being a bit mid-table probably. I think they'll survive anyway. But like you say, you've got in there. I've got Beeve, Talbot, Darvel, Pollock, Clydebank, and at a push Hurlford because Hurlford you can never write them off. I know you say that with Talbot as well, but I don't think Hurlford will be up there. But what I've put is for third place because, like you always said, you can't write them off. Talbot. I know there's a lot of transition about them. Like Big Leishman going to Darvel and all that. Shankland's away now. He's away to Troon. Hopefully get his fitness a bit better. But like I say, he's still a big character and they'll miss him. But a lot of young players, and I've seen a lot of young players last season. They did play well, so hopefully for their sake they could maybe push on. And like I said, management's just brilliant there. Obviously Tucker's like he just always seems to do it.
Like God,
Even if absolutely, that's the best way to put it. God, but I've put them third this season. Hawks second because even though they've got a lot of new signings like Faye Stirling, as you mentioned, Called Braves, I think as well.
Yeah,
I think they'll do well definitely if they get it right and push on. They can definitely do it. I think previous season they maybe maybe lose a couple there, and it's kind of just no happen for them, even though they've been up there. But I think second's probably best for them. But my top one, it was a hard one. Like I think you've got Beeve, who I think they've just improved. They've obviously brought the boy in for Renfrew to replace Josh Howe. I think he's leaving soon. I think he's been with Camargue and Motherwell on trial somewhere. So he might not be there, but he'll be a good replacement. Darvel as well, obviously. You've still got the likes of Ian McShane and Scott Ferguson there. Two good players. Like I'd say McShane's probably the best out in the league on his day. But I've went with Clydebank. I think they've just got something about him. I think they didn't start well last season, and I think this would probably depend if they start well. They do they did have a great run, like basically on the rest of the season, and some of the football I saw them play was incredible. Like Lee Gallagher and Nicky Little, some of the stuff they do. So if you can get the best out of them as the rest of the squad, I think they've got like Tom Collins signed as well. I think they can do something brilliant. But like I say, this is the toughest league in the country. Probably it's hard to predict. I've just went with my gut really with this one. So there we go. Talbot, Pollock, and winners Clydebank.
I'm going to be honest. You mentioned your gut. My gut's been churning for the past few weeks. I'm going to need to predict this league because I've spoke to every single manager over the past few weeks, and I've had to be honest with them and tell them where I think they'll be. And it's tough because I think it's such a hard league to call. Start with the bottom. I'm like Scott, really like Kev, really impressed with him since I've got to know him. I think there's a difficult job at Rob Roy at the moment. I think there's a lot going on behind the scenes that I think is having an impact on attracting players. I really hope Kev gets it right. I just worry that it might be too difficult for them in the league this season. Ben Burb as well, obviously difficult. A lot of young players there. They've lost a couple of big players, Lee Duncanson, Lewis McTaggart away. There's some good young players as well still there. There's a really good core. I just worry about, like, if they don't have a good start like they did last season, I don't think they'll be able to pull it back the way they did in the first last season. So I think Rob Roy and Ben Burb could potentially be two that go down. My third team that I'm worried about, and I think it could be difficult. They've lost a lot of players, and they've brought in obviously a lot of players for Whitlets, and kind of like Irvin Meadow. I think could be a team maybe struggling a wee bit. I don't think Glenafton. I think Glenafton will be really need to get a couple of bodies in, particularly up front, if they've got a chance to kind of do well this season. Gartcairn, I think the signing of Jack McElveen has completely changed how I feel about Gartcairn. I think they could be really good this season. I think they could potentially be top half. St Cadoc's really like Largs as well. Cumnock, obviously, John and Craig Cammy. John and Craig will be really interesting to see how they get on. Atherley, I think, could be interesting. Troon, really think they'll do well, obviously, with Dean and Jimmy. Shanker's getting in there as well. Chris Miller will be a really good person in the dressing room. St Cadoc's a lot to like about them. My top three is an absolute lottery between 6 or 7 teams. Like, it really is. I can't split them. On the one hand, you've got the likes of Beath who have kept most of the squad. I do expect Josh Fowler to go, but I think bringing in not just Kieran Diver, but Aaron Mason as well for Auchinleck. They've brought in another couple of good youngsters for Drawson and Muirkirk. They obviously had one of the best, I think probably one of the best bits of business in the whole league over the past year was signing Scott Ruff and Muirkirk. The progression in him was unbelievable. So Straney's capable of doing that again. There's a great setup at Beath, and I think they could be one that kick on. I think Beath will be in the top 3. Where, I don't know, but I think they'll be in the top 3. Said for the beginning, Clydebank's business, and to get it done early, bringing in Callum Graham and Thomas Collins and the boy Grant for Stirling Uni. I think it's 3 brilliant bits of business to add to a really good side. I think they could be up there as well. Auchinleck, I know I'm going to sound like a broken record, but the minute I write off Tommy Sloan is the minute I stop following football, because you just can't do it. And if anybody's going to get this side going, it's going to be Tucker, because I think there's a lot of rebuilding going on. And Reece made a really good point, I think, about the character at the club. Knowing a lot of the guys, I know there was a real tight knit. They've kept the likes of Neil McPherson, Craig McCracken still there, Kieran Healy. Obviously, I think they'll be really helpful to the young guys coming in, like obviously Rory Langan. They've got a couple of loan players for Aaron Kilmarnock. Having that type of experience, I think, will be essential if they're going to do well. Darren could be really good at Hurlford this year. They've recruited really well. The signing of Ali Love could be an amazing bit of business if they get that right. I think Pollock as well, obviously, very interesting summer they've had recruiting players. Max has got his own stamp in the squad. And Darvel, it's a case of if it all fits. I think there'll be 1 or 2 more to come in. I don't think they're finished in terms of their summer recruitment. And I just can't split it. I really want to sit in the fence, but I know I'm not allowed. Beath, Clydebank, Darvel, my top 3, with Auchinleck, Pollock, Hurlford and Troon very close behind them. That's how tight I think this league is. I think there could be 7 teams going for the top 3. And I just think it's so hard to predict. I just think it's been really hard. I'm already a nervous wreck knowing the managers will be in touch tomorrow, and I imagine you'll all be the same. And I mean, it's this is why we do it. This is why we love the West. We love obviously doing the predictions, seeing a lot of clubs how they've been recruiting over the summer. And I'm going to put my panel on the spot. They didn't know about this beforehand, but I was always keeping it for them. I'm going to ask every single one of them. We're going to round the panel before we finish up. Which West side is going to go the furthest in the Scottish Cup, the Senior Scottish Cup? Who will I start with? Who looks organised? I'll go with Mark to start. You always look organised. What West team is going to go the furthest in the Scottish Cup?
I think it all depends on the draw. I'll probably sitting in the fence, but obviously Darvel beating Aberdeen last year sort of throws a spanner in that works in terms of the draw. But I hope the boys at Cumnock do well. I want Cumnock to go as far as they can.
You're going for Cumnock. Scott, who do you think out the West teams will go the furthest in the Senior Scottish Cup?
I'll seeing as I didn't have Auckland like in my top three for the leagues. I think that the cups maybe I've went against Talbot a wee bit the past couple of years. They have good cup runs, and then last season they ended up again with this big sort of backlog of games that maybe kind of cost them the chance of catching beat in the league. So if Tommy can get off to a decent start, I've got a favourable draw in the first round. I think it'll be down to Wigford and Blackburn. I'd fancy them to get through that. If he can get a bit of momentum going, they've been over the course and distance before. They know what it takes to win these ties against senior teams. I'd fancy Talbot to hopefully have a decent run again.
Excellent. Gary?
I'm backing Scott here. I think I'm going to go with the Talbot as well to go the furthest. I think as we've touched base on, they've not had the run of the fixtures or in recent years, but I think with their experience, I think they'll just be too strong to go, and I think they'll be one of the strongest to go as far as again, similar with Mark. I hope Doyle does well down there, and I hope they get a good run at it. So I'm just going to make it a series and go with the Talbot.
Reece, who you got?
Well, this is my favourite bit of the actual West, is seeing how they do in the Scottish Cup. I was there at a couple of Pollock games, and I was at the Darvel Aberdeen one as well. So, yeah, definitely the best glory hunt you could do, possible. I'm trying to think who's not had their big run, because you had Darvel last season. Pollock took a degree last season, well, but they never went like
From Sharp beating Edinburgh as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Clingbank the season before that. Talbot's been with Hearts a few times. It's a hard one. I think just like I say, gut instinct, I'd go with Talbot again. I think we're saying they're kind of not going to win the league this season, and they're in a bit of a transition. I think if they've got anything to prove, it'll be Scottish Cup. They'll be wanting to put their stamp out again. So Talbot.
Interesting. I'm going to go with Beath.
Oh.
I think they've got a tough draw to start. They go to Carnoustie. I wouldn't say that's a walkover, but I think just because obviously it's going to they've had to they're no in it of they're in it on merit. They're only in it obviously because of the licence there. I think Straney will want to have a big run in that this season. I think they could be well set up for a good run in that. I really fancy Beath to do well in it, and I think every team that does the West. The one thing, obviously, with Darvel last season it did was it brought so many eyes onto the West of Scotland Football League, and I really hope it's the same this season. So, wish all the clubs the best in the cups, and all 80 clubs that are in the West of Scotland this season. Thank you very much for giving me your time over the past few weeks and giving me some stuff to put out in the channel. It's greatly appreciated, and thank you very much for helping us get the season content underway. And the season prediction show has been an absolute blast to do. I've thoroughly enjoyed having the guys' company on. First of all, Scott Campbell, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me, Scott. Pleasure.
And Garry O'Hanlon, all the best at Fanart this season, and thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. Mark, best of luck at Forth, and hope to hopefully see you back in the managerial hot seat soon.
Thanks very much. Well, my phone will need to stay off for a few days now, so we'll see what happens. Might not be back on till October and see what happens.
I'm disappearing for the weekend. I'll start player of the week Monday, and that's me. But you'll not hear from me all weekend. And to Reece Mullen as well. Hopefully, to see you out and about at ground this season. It's been an absolute pleasure, mate. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, Scott. I'll hopefully see you soon as well, pal.
Absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much to everyone who's tuned in. Please follow and subscribe to the channel for all West of Scotland content, and we'll see you all soon for the next episode of the West of Scotland show. Thanks very much.